Welcome back. Today is a podcast for raising your consciousness. Now you may be going, Prima, what is that now? This is my simple illustration of what we're talking about today. And my guest is Dominique. And Dominique believes that you can move through the world blindfolded. Literally, you're moving through the world. It's probably going to be midnight for you every day. You're blindfolded and you can step and land and get flipped by whatever obstacle comes your way. Or the other choice is you can flip on the switch and have light as you move. And so the difference between being conscious and not being conscious is being able to see the world with a different set of eyes. I like to say being able to grow and advance your lens of the world. What is happening and what does that mean? For different people, the same thing can mean different things. And so if you catch yourself in a situation where people use you, you find that every relationship you're in is toxic or abusive. You find that even your friends like kind of use you. You find like you don't really have people who genuinely want to partner with you because everybody's trying to take from you. This can be a sign that you need some of that dose. If you're in a place where you're just unsatisfied with where you're at and what's happening, maybe you're in a job and you feel like you're just not happy where you're at. This is going to be a conversation. Dominique, one of the things he helps people with is relationships. If you're attracting all the wrong people and you seem to move from relationship to relationship to relationship, there's one common denominator. We all had to face it, and that's you. And so what he's bringing to the podcast today is that until you bring the unconscious and make it conscious, you still live in a world where you are on auto and you blame everything else apart from the actual reason. And so his approach really is to raise consciousness in the world so that we can own whatever we are doing and we can lead ourselves to wherever we want to go. But of course, I'm not the best one to explain this message because it's not my message. The messenger is right here. And why don't we bring him up to explain to us the work he does and how it works? Dominique, I'm excited to bring you on because we're going to get in the weeds of your message, how it works, how it helps people, your process, everything in between. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Prima. That's a beautiful introduction. I almost feel like I have nothing left to say to add to that. We can just replay it again.
There is always something that I leave out. Trust me. So why did I leave out? As I was going round and round the work you do.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you left anything out. Maybe we'll discover it, but I think I would definitely accentuate. I super appreciate you emphasizing like the consciousness. So I would say to begin with, I would expand that. So, people will come to me or reach out to me essentially because they have a problem. And I liken what I do as as a coach. I'm a consciousness coach, very much to like a fitness coach. Very strong similarities, parallels between the two. And so if you go to a fitness coach, I mean, everyone knows pretty much about fitness, getting in better shape. You're going to have to do your reps, you're going to have to do your sets, and you're going to have to do that with consistency. You're going to have to change your diet, make it a lifestyle, actually, if you want these changes to be permanent. You're going to have to get your sleep, and you got to focus on your macros, macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And if you do that, it's all relatively straightforward. But the key thing is not only to make these changes, but be consistent with it. And, emphasis on a lifestyle. You have to live differently if you want your fitness, your health to be differently. So when it comes to what I say consciousness coach, it's the same thing. And so when people have this problem, I really see it's kind of what I call like a mental fitness or emotional fitness. It's not intelligence. Most of the people I work with are plenty smart, very smart. It's if it is an intelligence, I would say it's an emotional intelligence, or I can even say like a spiritual intelligence or consciousness intelligence. And from that perspective, I would say, we'll pick one. We'll say that they are their consciousness is is out of shape. They can become more fit consciously. And so like the fitness person, the fitness trainer, I would say, well, we got to get your reps and sets up and get your consistency. And so the reps and sets largely is it's stopping one essential thing. This one essential thing is equivalent to eating like junk food, all the chips and the pizza all the time. It's holding other people responsible or accountable for how you feel. And so embedded in that statement, I'm telling people like your feelings are super, super important. And you need to get in touch with your feelings. And the people say, well, how do I do that? Very simple. You just stop and ask yourself, how do I feel? You do that multiple times a day. And you just do it without judgment. You don't have to like go on to feeling good or bad about how you feel. It's just like try to notice how you feel. And if you do that over time, consistency, you'll start to get a better idea of how you feel. And then I think the biggest temptation, the biggest lack of fitness and consciousness is determining that, say, you're sad or unhappy or angry, and you make your circumstances or you make someone else or some group of people responsible for how you feel. You say, I feel this way because of my partner. I feel this way because of my friend. And the way you want to get fit consciously is you just take the worldview. I'm 100% responsible for my circumstances and how I feel. So that sounds like a simple statement, and you might even be in like complete agreement with it, and a lot of people might already be in complete agreement and says, well, that's not a revelation, Dominic. The thing is, I say, well, try and do it. Try and do that, and just see like are you able to consistently do that? Are you able to do that 100% of the time? And it's that one practice itself will help increase the consciousness, largely because it'll force you to ask yourself a bunch of questions. And I think this is another part of that, becoming more conscious. I don't think you become more conscious by making statements such as like, I'm unhappy, or my job sucks, or my partner doesn't love me. I think you become more consciously fit by asking questions. And so a direct correlation, the better quality of your questions, the better quality your life is going to be. So these are really questions you pose yourself. And as a consciousness trainer, what I do with my clients, I ask them really good questions, and I help them understand how to ask really good questions for themselves. Because, of course, one day I would like them to get to the point where like they don't need me. But I will say, well, the activity doesn't stop. So, we can stop working together, but you still need to keep asking yourself good questions. You still need to hold yourself 100% accountable to the results that you're getting in your life and the feelings that you have. One phrase that I love, and it can be a bit in your face, but it's kind of the sad truth. They always talk about, if you want to see your abs, your abdominals when you're working out and stuff, they say, well, great abs start in the kitchen. And so any trainer will tell you that it doesn't actually matter the amount of exercise you do. You have to have that discipline and consistency in the kitchen. And so when it comes to people I'm working with, the statement that it's kind of like having the discipline in the kitchen. It's like, well, do you have results, or do you have excuses?
Wow. Wow. I like how you're talking about this consciousness as a muscle, because it just hit me like every muscle needs to be developed. Like you can't go to the gym and lift 100 kgs on day one. So this is a muscle and we're developing it. It also drops me in a place where I understand that now the human being is the body, the mind, and the spirit. So the question for me right now is your work more of the mind and spirit, or is it all the three? Or help me understand, is this woo, or what kind of work are you doing essentially when you talk about consciousness? And I'm thinking woo at this point, but help me understand, is it body, mind, spirit, or is it mind, spirit, or is it which parts of the human is your work centered on?
So, for everyone listening, I would say the first place to start with is your body. Maybe people have heard like your body is your temple. Get your temple in order. That's the first step. That's the foundation. You're not going to have great consciousness with a poor temple. I heard one spiritual leader say, people that are starving don't need spirituality, religion, they need food. So the physical body is the foundation of everything. And, I've witnessed people achieve great heights of consciousness just by, say, doing a juice cleanse. So that being said, where I engage people typically, the clients that find me, I would say my process is very much the mind itself.
Take me to a place where if I ignore this consciousness stuff, what can I expect? If I just put on my blinders and go, no, I'm not going to do this consciousness stuff. Like, what can I expect to happen if I decide to be blind about this stuff?
I'm not sure this answers your question, but I would say, well, that's what most people are already doing.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so that's what's already occurring. They're doing things blindly, and so the blindness is, or the blindfoldedness is, growing up and being conditioned. So whether you love the experiences you had as a young child or you hated them, you were conditioned. And the young mind is basically focused on like navigating the world and learning how to be safe. And so everything that's being learned is really being understood to like, how is this, like what can I do? What beliefs and behaviors can I adopt, like, to keep myself safe? And so that's the whole condition side of things. And so the conditioning, parents, could be older siblings, caregivers, religion, teachers, strong people in the community, culture is a big one. And so you grow up with that, and then those are the blinders. And so you think you have like a correct way of seeing the world, but you don't. You just see the world as you've been conditioned to. Or to use another popular phrase, you never see the world the way it is. You only see the world the way you are.
I really love why you're taking this. I have my little niece around, and today I was telling my husband, how many conditions or patterns or programs have we installed in this baby since yesterday? Because I'll say something like, no, you don't shower and put on the same clothes. And he'll say something like, no, you don't get in the road and get knocked. And I was like, you really see how many programs we put in this baby since he was here? And so what Dominique is saying is, you're either just going through life with patterns, conditions, programs that were handed to you, whether by your parents, your caretaker, your teachers, anybody who cared to give you advice to date, or you're choosing consciousness, which is, I am deciding to unlearn all these things and learn the things that serve me, which is really the equivalent of you're in a room and one person is walking without lights on and the other person is walking with lights on. And so the decision between consciousness or not is really that. The programs, patterns, stories, and everything people have told you since you were little. Is this what you want to keep going with? Or do you want a different reality? Because those things have led you where you are right now. And so if we want a different reality, we might need to rewire, reprogram, and reverse things. I really love where we've landed, Dominique. But how did you get into this work? What's your story?
I think the short answer is I got into this work because at some point in my career, I started managing people. And it was the first time in my life where I had to get things done, but I had to do it through other people. And so, as a leader, as a manager, the last thing to do that would have helped me be successful is for me to do the work the way I'd done it before. I just roll up my sleeve and start doing it. And so I needed the people I managed to do it. And so I had to figure out things like motivating people. And I had to figure out how to get them to want to do what I needed them to do, or really what the organization needed them to do. And I must say at the very beginning of it, I wasn't successful. I just felt angry and perturbed, and I questioned myself, like, why don't they just do it? Like I've told them what to do. Why are they not doing it? And then, I'm hearing things such as people didn't like the way I talked to them, or they were sad, or they didn't feel good. And I was perplexed because I'm like, well, what do your feelings have to do with it? I mean, you were hired here. I actually didn't hire you. You were hired here to do a job that you're getting paid. So why do I need to care about your feelings? So another way of saying that is I didn't know it at the time, but I was lacking consciousness. Or, I was lacking emotional intelligence. I think, for people, if consciousness is too abstract, they can use consciousness and emotional intelligence somewhat interchangeably. From a gross enough level, they're equivalent. Would you like me to go on, or would you want?
Yes, I'd like you to keep. I'd like you to tell us the whole story, because now I'm thinking about the guys that are scientific. They probably have to understand some neuro stuff. I would like you to keep going with your story, because I want to know, when you started doing this work and why, and what's the shift? How did you move from, I will tell you what to do because I'm your manager, to more like on another conscious level where you're actually understanding people from where they're coming from and the patterns and programs that run them, and getting this desire to serve the world by helping people raise their consciousness. I want you to drop into the place where this was like a light bulb for you and you started doing this work. How did you get there?
Yeah. I mean, so what I was trying to do was be more successful in my job, be a great manager, because I was always used to being great at what I was doing. And it just so happened coincident with this was, I joined a men's group. And so these are men talking together about different things. So I'm hearing different people talk about things that are important to them, getting into their feelings a lot, and then also what they were struggling with. And they would share from their own experiences. And so I got a chance to see things that worked out for other people and things that didn't. And of course, I get to ask my own questions, hey, this is what I'm doing my day to day. This is what I'm running into. I think that expanded my consciousness a lot. And I still wasn't using that term, but I saw different ways of handling things from the way that I was doing it. And what I actually saw, what I was doing is I was raised with a very strict father who was very much of the mind. It says I tell you what to do and you do it. So that's not the only quality he had, but that's definitely one of the qualities that I took going forward. And I thought that was just the way you talk to people to get things done. So, and raising consciousness, it's like when a child touches a hot stove, that's pain. That's an increase in consciousness. A lot of times that's how consciousness increases. And I was experiencing pain. And so the mind not being a great leader at the time, was like me touching a hot stove. And so I was like, well, what do I do? When you touch a hot stove, it's much more obvious. When you have people looking at you kind of grumbling and not smiling and not doing the work, it's less obvious like what to do. So I'd say that was the start of it. And I'd say the next piece I did probably was the most helpful. Up until that point in time, I was very much looking to be better through outward achievement. So, I went to Stanford University for undergrad. I went to Wharton for like my graduate degree in business. I've been in management consulting, so it was just I was getting the degrees, I was picking the jobs that this is success, and so I realized that when I wasn't getting what I want, well, let me look in the one place I haven't, which is inside. That was the greatest shift. I said, what is it about what I'm doing? And shift. I'm getting to that. Like I didn't realize at the time, I was taking accountability for my results rather than looking at the people and saying, well, you're not working or doing what I need to do because something's wrong. It's because of the way I'm showing up. It's the way that I'm projecting my words in statements that's causing this like result. So I think that was the big. I started doing some group meditations, and that was extremely helpful. Just something about that, and in the group, it was similar to the men's group, but it just was at this point. You had the addition of the meditation, so you meditate, watch your thoughts, you let them go, without like judging them. But at the same time, we also had discussion there, and so I thought that was particularly helpful. And so one of the things I decided to do at my job, I said, you know what, let me act as if I care about what these people are going through, like outside, like the work. And I must say at the beginning, it was very much like strategic. It was tactical. I said, let me talk about things like, what they did over the weekend, or what was going on with their family, or like, what were the goals in their life that they were working on outside of work. And at the beginning, even though it was tactical, I saw it was effective. I started getting better results, and I said, okay, well, I'm gonna go in this direction. And I'd say the biggest flip was like I actually caring, and so care about what was in their lives outside of work. I did start caring about what they were like doing, like as a person. So and largely, I go back to this. I just think my emotional intelligence was increasing, and I'd say one of the things that definitely was increasing was my compassion, because in working on myself, I saw how many different ways I was caught and I was trapped, and how it was even affecting like my performance. Or I would just say overall my effectiveness in life. And seeing the predicament that I was in allowed me to recognize predicament that all of us are in. And at the time, especially the people I was working with. So, and I decided to go deeper. So at this point in time, I was a director for a place called Leadership and Development Institute, and focused on leadership. So we were taking senior employees and trying to make them more effective leaders. And we had many good courses. But I felt, I don't really think this is going deep enough. Because what I had noticed, people were hanging up, and even when I hung up, I just said like, it was my strict father. So that was playing out in my adult life many years later. And so I know we weren't about to do therapy, at our place, because, there's a time and place for that. But I just said, I think we can do a lot more to make people like more aware. So I think shortening the story just a little bit, I said, well, I understand coaching is a thing. I actually got encouragement from a friend of mine I met at one of these meditation groups to look into coaching. She thought I'd be really good at it. I took the training, I got certified, and I started getting clients. And that's how the shift happened. I went from doing things that I could do and I felt I was competent at, to doing stuff that I was really excited about and really enjoy. And so it was a coincidence with me becoming more emotionally intelligent, as well as me finding something that I felt that I was not only good at, but I was great at, and found just very rewarding. I guess in other terms, I found my purpose, and so that's how I made the switch over to what I'm doing now.
I'm replaying your story in my head, and there's one thing that is it stands out for me. You stopped looking on the outside and started looking on the inside. But I want you to sit there and kind of tell us when those tables turned, because it can't be a lifetime of looking on the outside and never thinking that there's probably something on the inside to check. So what had to happen for you to start looking internally?
Well, I think, there was some pain there. So, I wasn't, having the success I wanted at work. There were some successes because at work, I also encouraged some people to look internally themselves. And I remember having a couple of conversations with some personnel there and saying, like, I don't think in our relationship, I'm the person to talk about some maybe deep-seated issues that may be going on with you. But we actually do work for a good employer where this type of assistance is available. And in our case, it's like employee assistance program, which they have a number of different like health services. And so I had to emphasize with the individuals I was speaking with, like, so I'm not saying I think there's something wrong with you or I think like you're crazy and stuff. I said, I just think there's something deeper. I think there's something deeper for you to look at. And a couple of the personnel people on my team took me up on it, and dramatic changes. And so that was like a hint that things were going well. And the other thing is, like, in my own life, there was the pain of a relationship actually ending. And, there's a lot of self-reflection on that. And so that was also like touching like the hot stove, because here I was doing not everything right, but many things right. And, wanting, the relationship to continue, and it didn't. And so, after that, lots of introspection. And I think that's a big part of the tables turning, because the last thing I was going to do at that point was blame my partner for the breakup, blame her for how I felt. And so, like, I knew, I just set it as a rule, like, I can't do that. Like, it's tempting, she did this, she did that, if only blah, blah. But it's like, no, like, it's like, I'm 100% responsible for the results here. And with that, I think that was probably the most intense introspection. And, I actually, it's a framework that I brought to people I work with now, because to me, I'm of the mind that a relationship is just a very, very deep container for self-growth and expansion. And if you're not up for that, then you're probably not up for being in a long-term relationship.
That's really interesting, because you're saying a relationship is like a very good lens to look at your self-development progress. And I'm very curious with the point where Dominique is really decided, I've got to do this work. Until I become conscious, nothing's going to change. All the things around me are because I am not conscious enough. I don't mind if your process is going to get us to how you did that, but I do want to get that process when you decided that you were done pointing fingers and blaming the world, and you were going to put yourself in the fire first and say, Dominique, what did you do wrong, and what did you learn, and what could you do better? Because I think that that's really hard for people to stop thinking that there is some external thing to, I actually have the answers. I just need to look in the mirror and look for some answers because I think I have them. Like, it's a very big trap. What's the next course? What's the next guru? What's the next book? What's the next thing that I can use to take away this thing? Who can I blame? Like, it's a very big trap that people get in for years and years. I'm wanting to really get to the place where you shifted. But if going to your signature process helps with that, we can go there. But I want to know, like, when did you decide to get the torch and put it on yourself and say, yeah, Dominique, you're the problem and the solution. Let's go. When did that happen for you? What had to happen? Some people have to really see their deathbed to do that.
Yeah. I really would say it I don't think it was one thing. I think it was a process. In getting back to that parallel of physical fitness, you know, it's not going to be the one thing that gets you fit. It's like showing up consistently over time. And so I will say this, I do think what's helpful for me is when it comes to self-development, I have more of a natural inclination for that than most people. So one of the things my clients benefit from is like I've already gone to these, say, deep containers that they probably won't go to. It's the same thing like a trainer. You know, he's got all the certifications, maybe does CrossFit competitions, uh, maybe he's like, you know, done a couple of fitness competitions. So he's had like the very deep learning of many different forums, many different settings, and he or she can help you just get rid of the extra 10 or 20 pounds. But you know, you're not interested in getting prepared, say, for a competition. You just want to look, say, more aesthetic. So for example, there's this one training, let's see if I remember. Oh yeah, Landmark, that's very popular in the US. I think Canada as well. I'm not sure the rest of the place. But it actually goes back, I think, to the 70s. It's something called Earhart Systems Training. And that training, believe it or not, it originally was to help people become better salespeople. But in the process of helping people become better salespeople, they said, oh, like people are afraid of hearing no, or they're afraid of getting rejected for deeper underlying issues. And so they got a lot more into the personal, or I guess what some people might call the transpersonal. And so since the 70s, this has, I think, had several different iterations, different names. It's almost like this is, I think we could call it like Earhart Systems Training is like open source, I think. So I think you can go online and find like the basics of it, and different groups have developed training from it. I took an iteration at the time that was called gratitude training. Very helpful. There was actually 3 different levels that I took in it. And I think that was really, really helpful because it was it brought a finer point to some very, very basic details. Like there's a book out there called like the 4 Agreements, and you know, a couple of those are like don't assume anything, you know, be your word. I actually forget what the other 2 are, but it's bringing focus to that and bringing like a discipline to it. And so I think that was one of the items. And other things, I just followed my curiosity. And so you know, there was a training I took in Iceland that was 2 weeks over like New Year's, like Christmas and New Year's. Very cold. It was I saw the Northern Lights. But it's one of those things of like it was that, and it was other trainings, but all of these were what I call trainings to help with that focus of just looking within, going within. So I think at this point I'm able to shorten that time frame for people. They don't necessarily have to go to all these different trainings because I can give it to them up front. So yeah, it's interesting your question, because I really wish I could say, boom, that was it. And it was a gradual process. It took time. I'm still in it. I'm still in the lifestyle of what we call doing the work.
I want to bring you to a place where if someone has been listening, following us, for you who's been with us and wondering, Is this for me? Is this not for me? Should I keep listening or not? What I want to ask Dominic is, what is the present state of the person who needs your help right now? Like, who should keep listening versus who should help us? Who are we wanting to really help with your process as we go through it? The people who are coming to work with you right now, like, what's their current situation?
Their current situation is they're likely a mid-level or senior level professional. Very likely they could be a CEO or some other C-suite executive. Are they an entrepreneur? And they're very good at executing, getting things done. They've been rewarded for that in their careers. They've gotten the education they want. They're more or less making like the money that they want. And so, the setup, I would say they've gotten all the things that they thought they should do, and they're in a place where they're actually quite unhappy. They're quite frustrated. And I would say that the majority of my clients are women. So, I could put that in there as well, even though I do work with men. And these women are focused on getting unstuck. So they feel stuck, they feel frustrated, and they're ready to do work on themselves. They're just not sure what that work is.
So you're saying that they're fairly successful, but they're stuck. So I'm just wondering, like, they're stuck about what? You're also saying they're unfulfilled. I'm failing to kind of understand the successful and the stuck. They're stuck about what? If they have the money and they're receiving the big paycheck and they can buy whatever they want in the world, what are they stuck about?
Yeah. So they're stuck on feeling fulfilled. And so going back to the important thing, I would have everyone just realize or focus on what no one really wants what they think they want. Like people think they want the relationship, they think they want the car, the position, like the money. What people want is a feeling. They want to feel fulfilled, they want to feel at peace. That's what they want to feel. And so when I say people feel stuck, they don't have this feeling. And so in practical terms, one of the things they may get stuck on is they have money, don't have the relationship. Or they have the relationship, but they don't like the relationship. They don't like the results they're getting in it. Or they can go from one relationship to another, but they find like the person that they're with, the name changes, but the actual person doesn't. Like they're dating the same type of person. If I broaden that up a little bit, they could actually be like me I was in my former position. They could be feeling stuck, frustrated at their job, where they're getting okay results, but they're not getting amazing results, or they feel like they might be getting passed over, or they're not getting greater opportunities, or they're lacking confidence, say, to step into another position, or they feel like they're working, but they're not working in their purpose. They're not feeling like a lot of meaning behind it. And so they're still at the point where they think the next position or the next relationship or the next salary increase is going to bring them what they're looking for, which is that fulfillment and that happiness. And I help them realize that game they're playing is like they're never going to win that one.
I like it. So incidentally, what I pick is you could be successful. You have all the money, all the toys, all the wives, if you marry wives, everything that you thought you needed, you have. According to society, you're actually successful. You have a house, you have a car, you have a job, whatever. But there's a sense of dissatisfaction. There's a sense of feeling stuck, whether that's in your relationship or another place. It's like you have all this money and then you look at your health and you just know that you'll be dead before anyone knows, because you look at your health and you don't know how long you'll be going for. Or you look at your relationships romantic, and you're like, why do I attract all the bad people? Why does my marriage suck? Why does my family suck? Why do I struggle as a parent? And so you have success evidently in one area, but there's another area that you look at and you just feel stuck. Is that near the description of kind of the status quo, or would you like to give more context to the present reality of the person?
I think you've nailed it. I would you've done such a good job on it. I think you give me an opportunity to add a bit to it. So yeah, it's stuck, frustrated, and you may even find yourself with health issues that you're facing, like chronic health issues, because you alluded to before, like the mind and the body, spirit, it's really not something we can say place this is where one stops and another one begins. It's really just kind of like a whole thing. And so the more fulfillment you have, the more peace that you have, the better your physical health is going to be. So a number of clients will come to me, and it's not the primary thing, but they'll be telling me about chronic pains that they have, chronic conditions. So, I'm not a medical person at all, but I will say the result of the work that I do with people, very frequently, those health conditions either lessen tremendously or frequently they actually disappear.
You've given me something to add. Because the human is the body, the mind, and the spirit, you could have a serious disconnect with your body. You feel like your health is going astray, which is like the chronic pain. I have all this money, but I can't seem to get rid of this thing. Or it's the mind that seems to have a problem. You feel like maybe everyone is after your money. You feel like everyone in your family sees you as an ATM. You feel like everyone that has married you, loved you, has married like almost, you feel like the world is after the ATM, or you're walking like you are walking ATM. Some men feel like that. Oh, in the spirit, you just feel like there's a hole inside. And you keep going for this thing and another certification, another car, another marriage, another child. But it's like the hole never fills. You feel like no matter how successful you are, it's not enough. It's still like you still don't get what it is that you want, whether it's people on your team, people genuinely who are interested in you, not your money. So you find that people come to you, but they just want to take something from you, as opposed to people who come to you and shower you with love and all of those things. You feel like people are just coming to you because you have something they want to tell. So you feel like your mind, body, and spirit, there is no sense of peace or sense of groundedness. And you feel like nothing you seem to do is enough. And so you feel fulfilled, you feel disconnected, and you feel stuck. Like, what more could you do? You've probably done it all by this point. Is that a good place to be for the work to actually make some impact, or is there more?
Well, that's a great place to be. Actually, you made me think of something else I would add. Stuck, frustrated, and you may feel like you're an imposter, or like there's issues going on with confidence or like self-esteem. And people might be saying, well, wait a second, they're already successful. How could they be lacking confidence? Well, the two frequently go hand in hand. Typically, a lot of deep success that you see, it has an energy source behind it. It has a driver, and quite frequently that's insecurity. And so like a lifetime of insecurity can be very debilitating for like one's confidence, and definitely like one's health. And so adding to what you said, yes, people feeling like there's like a hole inside. Sure, it's a feeling of this like of being incomplete, and like there's something missing. And that's it. And so we had talked before, and you were like discussing my message, and I really want to thank you, because I'm not sure this will have like the impact with the world I wanted to have, but I really say like I help people get what they want. And what I find is most people don't even know how to answer that question. And so when I say, well, what do you want? Like, I will say that to people, sometimes clients, sometimes like not, and actually tears will form because they have this realization and says, I've done so much, I've chased so many things because I thought it would make me happy, and I don't know what I want. All I know, what I have is not it. So sometimes that's a starting point, even formulating stuff, or even taking someone down the process of, well, let's suppose you could want this. I'll give them like different things, and it'll kind of be like a yes or no, and then eventually they'll feel guided to, oh yeah, that could be something, So it's great work, and if they already know what that they do want, even better, because then it comes down to execution and action. And I say that's one of the primary things like I'm doing for people too. There's some assessment I took. I love assessments. I think everyone should love assessments. Not that they all contain truth, but they're each like a little mirror. And so like sometimes you have this mirror in front of you. I guess, it's just you get one view, and there's these ones I like 3 view mirrors. It's like 3 panels, and so you're just getting a better idea of how you look. That's how I feel like assessments do. And so this assessment I took, it identified different strengths, and like my top strength was ideation. And so maybe that's a made-up word, but it just said you're very idea rich. It's like you can just constantly come up with them. And the thing is, it's true. Like every work I've done, all the positions, and what I'm doing now is that I'm very idea rich. And so in comparison, what I find is that many people are idea poor. So they'll have like 1 or 2 ideas about how to do things. I'll have like 24, and I can do more. And it's not like all these ideas are brilliant. I'm not saying that, but it's able to spark action in people. It's able to get them to see possibility. And so, at the end of the day, getting back to, do you have results? Do you have excuses? Well, before you have results, you're going to have action. And so I help people identify what the action is to get them to the results.
So Dominique, I'm now here, successful on paper. Everyone sees me as their role model. I have done so much to save everyone, to help everybody. And that's left me empty. I thought that saving the world would get me there, and I still feel that emptiness. I actually feel alone. When I am alone in the night, I really feel like an imposter, because if I could cry, I would cry. Because the way that the world sees me is not how I feel. I feel a void. I feel a hole on the inside. And if there was a trophy to give everybody who's done ticked the boxes, I would have it. But I feel really empty. What is that process of bringing me back home and helping me see on the inside? Because I have this desire to just keep looking on the outside and what could I do? In fact, when I come to you, I'm like, Dominique, what should I do? What book should I read? Who should I hire? How do you take me from that place to a place where I can actually get what I want without the whole inside of my heart? Take me through that process, if you will.
I get people really curious about themselves. And so I get them to know this. It says, okay, so let's identify what hasn't worked so far. And it's what you just mentioned. I said, because if you felt the way that you wanted it, we would not be talking. And so the awareness, self-awareness becomes like a huge thing. And so I get them to realize the game that they're playing needs to stop, and they have to do something else. And so at the very least, we get agreement that like continuing down the same path is fruitless. And so then it's like, so what's next? And so I give them a suggestion to go within, look within, because it's not so much that they have a hole inside.
Mm.
they really just have a lot of things what I call either in their shadow or undiscovered.
Mm.
And so imagine having like a warehouse,
Mm.
and it's an enormous warehouse, and it has all these beautiful treasures inside.
Mm.
What these people have done is they have shown a light on just a very small part of the warehouse. All these
Mm.
treasures exist inside, but they just keep operating in the same, say, 10 feet, as
Mm.
opposed to like, 2,000 feet that'd be
Mm.
inside. And so like I just show it with a flashlight,
Mm.
and I start shining light on other things in the warehouse. And I said, well, do you see this? Do you see this? Do you see this? And so, the process might be, so a person is like really driven. I'd say, hey, you've accomplished a lot in life. I said, like,
Mm.
you've been very successful, but by all estimates of the word are assessments. Why are you so driven? Again,
Mm.
getting back to the questions, I ask good questions like, why are you so driven? Like, why
Mm.
isn't everyone as successful as you are? Like, is it hard to be this level of success? Is it like, what's your secret? Like, how do you get there? And so they'll say, well, I learned at a young age and I did this and I was rewarded for this and everything. And I say, okay, so if you were rewarded for this, like, I guess you could also say you were say punished or unrewarded, say for like other things. And they'll say, yes. So you learn to make certain things about yourself wrong.
Mm.
I'll just say, open-ended. It's kind of like a statement, kind of like a question. And they'll give a pause, then they'll go like, well, I don't know. And I said, well, what do you think?
Mm.
It sounds like you made going slow, or taking your time, or walking away from things like wrong.
Mm.
Like, do you think there'd be any value in your life if you picked up some of these qualities? And first thing we say, oh, absolutely not. And I said, well, just consider it. And then I might bring a certain thing to the foreground, because there's this phrase, I think it's from a book title, Ryan Holiday, maybe, the obstacle is the way. So
Mm.
it's whatever is the source of kind of like your biggest frustration is like your path forward. And so they're very driven, they're very successful, but then they say their relationship is falling apart. And
Mm.
I'd say, so what other qualities other than, you know, charging hard forward, stating what you want, winning, what
Mm.
other things that maybe you need made wrong that we just identified could possibly help the situation you're in right now?
Mm.
And so they'll give me a couple ideas. And I said, so if you applied that, what are some of the shifts that you think can be possible? And so they'll
Mm.
go through that a bit. And then I'll say, well, let's try it.
Mm.
Go out there and try it. Um, and so what I do pair is a change in the beliefs and how they
Mm.
see themselves. I pair it with action, because we don't learn about swimming through reading or like watching videos of it. We learn it by doing it. And so
Mm.
that's really what I emphasize with them. And it's also the accountability. So I say, if we're going to do this thing, then they need to do the thing. And so we're not going to see progress until it happens. And so like I follow up with them. And as I said, they're good at executing, but they're good at executing the things they feel comfortable with, that they develop strength in. And when they are doing these other things, like, sometimes I have to keep coming back to them and saying, okay, so you have to do this, you have to try this. And then eventually they start doing the action. And once they start doing the action, then we start getting feedback. We start getting new data. We say, well, what's the result? Did you get the result that you wanted? And most importantly, how did you feel? This is the most important thing. How did you
Mm.
feel when you did this new thing? And they said, well, I felt scared. I felt uncertain. I felt like I was going to fail. But invariably, at some point, they will also be like, I felt better. I felt, more whole. I felt more capable.
Mm. So what I'm picking up is more like the first thing is, how do you move from being stuck to actually being unstuck? How do you move from being successful and probably feeling like your marriage, your failure in relationships, to building partnerships? How do you move from having everything but having your health drowning? Like, how do you get unstuck? How do you move from that place of being unfulfilled? How do you get from that place of feeling like an imposter when the world expects answers from you? How do you move from that place of trying to save everyone and say, okay, I need my oxygen mask? Everyone pause, I need to wear my mask. What I'm picking is, first of all, what is it that we've tried? List it. And let's agree that this is not the game we're going to play going forward. These things haven't worked. So for God's sake, let's not do them again. The realization that you need to play a different game to get a different result. And then in here comes the work that for me sounds like shadow work, but then I don't understand, because it's more like we have to find the obstacles and then turn them into fuel. Help me there. Like, after I have identified that, okay, I need a new game, how do you help me to kind of get the fuel I had to succeed in one area to apply it in another? Help me, take me there again, because I feel like I'm still trying to get a grip of that. I've tried 100 things, they've not worked. I have the job, I have the career, I have the promotions, but I'm on the third marriage. And I can assure you the divorce papers are coming. I don't see how this is different. It's like I attract the worst people on the planet. Help me get from like that place to realizing what part I'm playing in the relationship. Because at the moment I'm like, all the girls are bad, all the women are bad. I don't know what's wrong with people. Yeah. Help me understand how I can kind of twist that to a place where I can ultimately try certain things that might help.
So sometimes people can do it on their own.
Mm.
There's various things that I've explored where they say you want to get like a guide, you want to get like a teacher. So let's say I wanted to learn like a martial arts.
Mm.
I'd go to a dojo. I'd go to like a training school.
Mm.
So I would encourage people to seek out someone like myself, seek out myself and sit with that person and
Mm.
hear what they have to say. And so at the current point, my life is figuring out better ways to do things, better ways for existence. I have a big background in project management. I did industrial engineering. It's all about optimization. So that's what I'm doing with people. I'm optimizing what they've had. So let me see if we can answer in this way, and maybe if you think it worthwhile, take a different take. So in the media, recently there was a actor that died of an overdose. Matthew Perry, super successful, TV series Friends. I'm sure he had more than enough money that he needed, and I think he died in the bathtub on an overdose of ketamine after many years of, I think, like alcohol, like abuse or addiction.
Mm.
So a lot of times we see this in the media and we just accept it. Oh, that's what happens to stars a lot. They're discontent with their lives. They didn't figure out how to be happy, and
Mm.
you just kind of go this way. Like when I see it, I see something, and this is not blaming him. It's just I see something that it definitely could have easily gone like a different way. And
Mm.
so, but it comes with the realizations, and it comes with um, um, the desire for change. And so the thing I need the most and what people need the most is like a desire for change. And so
Mm.
like when you touch the hot stove, you're not going to keep your hand on it. It's just automatically going to come off of it. Your body's going to do that for people. That's like, you can say that hot stove, that heat is like a wake-up call. And so people, if they can come to me before they get the wake-up call, or before they get to, what we'll call like a rock bottom for them, great. So, but a lot of times it is at the rock bottom. A lot of my first calls, when people speak with me, there's a lot of tears there's a lot of crying, which for me, believe it or not, is a great thing. Like, I'm great when people are in distress and turmoil, because because people, what they're telling me, it's like, what I'm seeing is like, you're ready for change. Your hand is on the hot stove and you actually don't even know how to get your hand off the hot stove. I can help. And so I need that impetus on their side, like, to want to change. And so people that come to me and say, well, things are kind of okay, and I'm not sure, and this could go on, I can't work with them. Maybe other people can, but like, those people wouldn't be successful clients for me, because their desire for change isn't great enough. And so that desire for change is also seen as receptivity. It's like openness. Or let's say, I had openness when I wasn't doing well at the job of leading. I had openness when, the relationship came apart. My hand was on the hot stove. Like, I wanted answers. And so I was seeking. And so that is so fundamental. Like, you really have to want it. I mean, you can imagine, no one needs more advice on like the problems of drinking too much, or like, smoking cigarettes. It's just like, change happens when people want change. And so like, they have to want it. And then, yes, there is a knowledge piece. They have to know how to do it. And that's where I would step in. So my encouragement would be for, people to seek out someone like myself for that, because for me, it's there's framework behind it, there's systems, there's steps, there's process. Like, when you think about it, if you buy a house in your lifetime, and it can be a lot of confusion. You're not sure the steps, you're not sure what's going to happen. How do I get money? Who's going to finance me? Where, like, can I afford the payments, everything else? But for a person who's involved in this on a daily basis, like, it's just Tuesday for them. and they know what to do. And so I'm in that place, or other people are in that place, because we have made this our work. We're able to bring this process and these steps and this awareness to people. So that's largely the thing. Now, if they were going to say do it on their own, would you think it'd be helpful to explore that?
I would love for you to kind of give me the process, so that if the person is sat on the other side, they kind of see the process and go, oh, could you hold my hand through that? Because for me, I can decide I want to drop 10 pounds today. I know there's 1,000 ways to do that, but I need to sell myself on one way. So if I decide I'm going to do intermittent fasting, because all I need to do is eat less and walk more and probably drink more water, then I go, oh, I'm so busy, I think I could do the fasting thing. So now then I can help myself to whatever the program is. But I kind of need to buy the process first. If somebody is helping me lose 10 pounds, but they want me to spend 5 hours in the gym, I don't have 5 hours. And so do I want the change? Yes, but I don't have 5 hours. So for me, it's important that we go through the process, because there is people that will feel like this is my process. There's people that will feel like it's not. And all of that is okay. I just want people to choose. Is this your process or is it not? If it makes sense.
Yeah. So one thing I'll definitely add, I think what's helpful for people to see is outcomes. And so a lot of times you'll see fitness trainers, they'll say, well, these are my outcomes. They'll show the before and they'll show the after. Although there's great analogs to physical fitness in the work I do, the before and after is, like, say, less visible in a photograph. So I think, like, many of my clients I get through through referrals. And the way it happens is one of my clients, like they'll be with a friend they haven't seen with a while, or a friend they've seen over time, and their friend will say, like, what are you doing? Like, there's something different about you. Like, what have you been doing? And they'll say, what do you mean? You just seem happier. You just seem more content. You're less like reactive. And so many of my clients come in because they see the results in people that they know, and they say, I want that. And so I think that can be a big impetus, like knowing that the results are possible if some body of work is done. So that can be helpful. So absent that, let's say someone's saying, okay, like I'm curious, I'm interested, I'm just not sure it's for me. I'm just not sure that I have the time. So I would say, the process I work with people is, first and fundamentally, as I say, I get them to know themselves, be curious about themselves. I'm very big on like self-knowledge. So I will help people take some assessments. Some are free, some they have to pay for, but they take the assessments, and like I said, these are like they're mirrors, and then we go through the results. And the assessments, it's a great way of like stepping out of the ego, because the assessments really give an objective perspective on this person that they haven't had before. And the assessments like I use, they're a little bit different than, say, the traditional ones, where in the professional world, you'll take an assessment and say, you do these things. The assessments like I use says like, you do these things because of this. And that because of is so important, because the because of sees like your drivers and your motivations, and quite frequently it'll show like your wounding, the places like where you're trying to hide, the places where you're trying to keep yourself safe. So the self-knowledge is a huge step. The next step is what I call like self-appreciation, or like self-love. Like I'll really help them understand that many of their drivers that they're experiencing is because they actually don't like themselves. And so in order to like themselves better, they're trying to like get these achievements, these external things. That's a very big step in terms of getting that awareness around them. And so a lot of people say, they figure there's some absence there. They'll say, well, how do I do that? And so I'll teach them how to actually love themselves. I'll tell them what love is. I think most people, I'd say nearly all people, have no idea what love is. They think it's some type of feeling, and it's not. So I teach them that piece. So they've got the self-knowledge, they've got the self-love, and once they have these two pieces, then I'd say, okay, well, what are the results that you want to have in your life? Because now we have like the building blocks that they have. Now we have, I think you mentioned before, this fuel. So instead of like being fueled by like insecurity or self-loathing, or like trying to hide from people, or hide what they feel is their true selves from people, now they have self-knowledge, comfort with self, they have appreciation for self, and so they feel worthy and capable of the results that they want. And so if it's like a new position, they now feel worthy and capable of that new position. They feel worthy and capable of that higher salary. They feel worthy and capable of that relationship with the person that they want. And once you get the self-knowledge, there's some that's unique, and there's also like similar stuff. And so when you have self-knowledge, you recognize that you want to be with the person, you want to be around with other people that also have self-knowledge. Because once you have self-knowledge, you also have gained compassion for yourself. And when you have compassion for yourself, you're able to have compassion for other people. And when you have that, you're just naturally able to get along more with people. You're able to have that required patience in your relationships. You require patience with other people. And once you have that patience, it allows you to slow things down. And when you get triggered, deal with those things those emotions and then choose the next response that you're going to have. And it's consciously choosing with intention what you want to create in the world, your world, that allows you to shift your reality.
I think I get it. The first thing is to be curious and to really understand you so that you can get the confidence of why you've achieved what you've achieved. The second one is to really love yourself, I think, radically. Having self-appreciation for yourself and loving yourself through, I don't know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Third is really know, like, what do you want? And perhaps what do you want because you want it? Not because it will make another person, I don't know. What do you want for you? Not because you will look better, or like, what does maybe your spirit want? Like, internally, what do you want for you? Not what it will bring you from the external. Having the compassion for yourself. This has been a big one for me. What do I want? The best marriage in the world. Okay. Knowing myself, knowing my shadows, knowing where I am imperfect has helped me be more compassionate to my spouse, less judgmental to my spouse, less impatient to my spouse, which then has allowed me to slow down, identify my own triggers, deal with my own issues, and become a light instead of an obstacle to him so that I can get the marriage that I ultimately want. I don't know if that's helpful, but I can see that knowing myself and understanding why I do what I do and why I do it and what I want, and really knowing what my shadows are, has helped me to hold more space for my spouse. But I don't know how to explain it. But it's helped me to go, Prima, you're not perfect. This is where you might be helping him get worse. This might be where you might be fueling him not to be the best that you want for him to be. This is what you can do to heal yourself. This is what you can do to solve your own issues. And once I take that route about what could Prima have done, I get a different response.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've nailed it. And if I can put like just some finer points on that, or some additional points, what you want to do is love your partner. And in order to love your partner, this is a key thing. It's like, it's not about what your partner's doing for you. It's like, what are you giving to your partner?
What are you feeding them?
Yeah, what are you feeding them? But here's the thing, you can't give or feed from nothingness or from lack. And so before you can give your partner love, because we all know if you're able to give your partner love, like you'll get that back. But in order to give that, you've got to fill yourself up first. And so you said, radical self-love, radical self-acceptance of everything, of the light and the shadow. And when you're doing that radical self-acceptance, that is the self-love.
Let me explain this. Let me try. When I was born, I was given a cup, which came from my grandmother and who had so many people going on before her. This cup had something my grandmother had put in it, call it mud. And my mother put some water, but that water was also contaminated with whatever systems they had. So now I have this cup and it has water, but it's not pure. So if I'm drinking from this cup, that's what my husband is going to get. So this self-consciousness is me deciding I'm going to purify this cup so that when I'm drinking of this, it's pure water, which I can then feed to him and my kids to get the results I want. Most people are drinking from a cup that is contaminated from whatever ancestors they come from. No wonder when you drink from this cup, you can't give pure whatever you want the world to receive. So if you drink from this cup which your grandfather gave you, and you give that to the world is going to drink it and come and look at you like an ATM. If you purify the water and give it to them, they're going to look at you as a human being who deserves love and all of those things, and they're going to bring those things. So I really see it as a cup which has been passed on to you. But are you drinking from the cup, or are you first cleaning the cup up? Because if you're drinking from the same cup that has been passed down generations, chances are there's mud that you're taking, and whoever you're feeding in can only give you the results from that input. Does that help?
Yeah. I think that nails it. I think it more than helps. I think it helps. It just solidifies it. And you're right. If you're drinking from that cup, you're getting those impurities in you, and you're also passing those impurities onto everyone you interact with. Everything that you do in life, you're passing on those impurities. Yeah.
And if we don't like the results that we're getting, then we need to change the input, which is we need to actually look at the cup and maybe drink some, I don't know. We need to purify the cup through which we drink, so that whoever we are trying to feed in, we're feeding something pure. And that's how we're going to get whatever is it that we want.
Yeah.
I love why this message is landing, Dominic. What have we left out that needs to come out before we conclude things?
Great question. What have we left out? I mean, I think I would emphasize like it's the lifestyle side of peace. So it's like people they want to be one and done. And so again, just like the physical training, if you want to stay in shape, like you've never reached your last workout. You've never eaten your last clean meal. You need to keep doing it. Now, maybe you don't have to go as intensely all the time. And if you get to certain, say, level of physical fitness and emotional fitness, consciousness fitness, yeah, you can do maintenance work, but that's still maintenance work. And so this is always going to be ongoing. The thing I would share with people is that, until you reach this end result, you may not understand how great you feel being this emotionally fit, being this consciously fit. Because if you're drinking from a cup that results a lot of times in depression, anxiety, angst, anger, fear, shame, then you may think that is actually just your life, how you exist and how everyone exists. And I would say assuredly not. Assuredly not. Like when you purify that cup that you mentioned, your moment to moment existence can be predominantly one filled with peace, love, compassion, and playfulness.
I don't know who said this, but there's a saying that if you don't make the unconscious conscious to drive your life, and you call it fate.
Yeah.
I don't know who.
Yeah.
But there's
that's actually a Carl Jung quote, a master of the subconscious realms. Yes.
So if you really don't get these things, if you don't raise your consciousness, you will begin to call what you call fate, but it's really not. It is the subconscious literally running your life. What I want to end this discussion with is fitness starts in the kitchen. That's how we started. Dominique started by saying either fitness or results or the body, whatever. But fitness starts in the kitchen. And so I think that the consciousness or your level of that really starts from what cup you're drinking from. Doesn't matter how conscious you get. If you keep drinking from that cup your grandmother gave you, it's not going to make a difference because it has impurities. It does. It does.
Yeah.
The part that I'm sliding in right now is if you're here, chances are you either need this work like oxygen, like your life just needs this work right now. You've done some amazing stuff. You're a super, super achiever. You've done all of the things. You're in a place where you're like, is this worth it? Like, did I wake up to do all these things and just end up here? You look yourself in the mirror and you don't like what you see. But you have done everything possible to get to success, whatever that success was for you. And you're thinking, I think I need to redefine success because I don't feel happy. I certainly don't feel successful. If you are in that place, best thing to do is look in the show notes. And we're going to be talking about some ways you can work with Dominique and putting that in the show notes. But also, if you know someone that is on paper very successful, But you look at another area of their life and you feel like they're drowning. So that's C, executive, manager, whatever. But you look at their family life and they're sleeping in the bar because they can't go home. Or they're having to deal with divorce after divorce. Or for some reason, there's an area of their life where you feel like they're drowning. This would be their conversation. So what I would want you to do is I would want you to press share and just go in their private space and share this conversation, because I want them to meet Dominique, not the whole world, but those people whose lives depend on his message. I really do want them to meet him. And because you're listening, that means you have been chosen to be the messenger of this message. Dominique, tell us how you support people. What containers do you have in the back?
Primarily what I have now is like one-on-one coaching. And so
Okay.
it's like it's the deepest container. Maybe by the time this gets released, I'll have my group container set up. So I've been in many group containers. I find them very effective because what I found myself going through, other people were going through. And so in some ways, it's an accelerated way of uncovering stuff, because what one person uncovers, probably nearly everyone in that container, that group is going to have. And so we can get through it quicker. You'll see different like solutions. So that will be set up soon. The one-on-one is just a deeper dive, and we can actually touch on things, you know, at a depth and a consistency that we wouldn't be able to do in the group. And so those type of engagements, you know, I can meet with people face to face. Sometimes, you know, I can bring in other practitioners that are, I'd say, skilled in certain key areas that will help out. So I'm able to give them like the full array of, we'll say, healing modalities and insights. Some to do with the psyche, the mind, other things to do with the body, other ways we can use energy. Those we can explore in the one-on-one containers as opposed to the group.
So one-on-one, I love one-on-ones. Oh, I love one-on-ones. Personalization, proximity, and literally getting what you need. Maybe you need a certain type of modality or healing or whatever. I love one-on-ones. If you can jump on a one-on-one opportunity, I would just go for that. For all of the benefits of this thing here is tailored for you, your DNA and your problems. I love the group stuff, but group stuff without the one-on-one also I don't like. So I really love the one-on-one element. And if you're watching this, I don't know when you're watching it. Hopefully Dominique still has some one-on-ones, because that's what I would shoot for. And if I can't get into the one-on-one, then the group. The work is really moving from where you're at, stuck, unfulfilled, all of the things, into the place where you feel like, wow, my life was worth living. You want to reach a point where if you die tomorrow or next minute, you're like, my life was a life well lived. I don't know who said that and why, but I think it's a test that you can give yourself right now. If you were to die the next minute, would you be able to say that?
Yeah.
If you wouldn't, then possibly this is going to be your time to hop in the show notes and book a call.
Yeah.
Dominique, as we get to the end of this podcast, what would you love to leave with us? The words of like closing, or just your last words of wisdom.
I would share this with people and just take it as perspective. And I'd say play with it to see how it can be true or how you can make it true. The world is a beautiful playground. It is already a heaven and you're sitting in it. All you need to do to connect with that, to experience this world as a heaven, as a playground, is to purify your cup. I think in addition to that, what Dominique has just said, there's two ways you can go through life. You can create your own hell on earth,
You can create a mediocre life, but you can also create a heaven on earth. But you have to choose. Which one will it be?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today and for being a part of the World's Best Kept Secret. Dominique, thank you so much for being our guest today. We really appreciate you for today, but we also celebrate you for all of the time you spent in the wilderness, suffering and sweating and having all these problems so that we could condense time and run through the timeline. So really thank you for bringing all your wisdom and all of your nuggets and everything in between to the podcast today. We want to celebrate that.
Thank you, Prima. It's been my absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I have felt very grateful to be led through this process by you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you're listening and you haven't done anything with this information, there's a few ways I would love for you to help me spread this work. The work I do literally is to make the world a better place. It's to reduce suffering. It's to help everybody raise their full potential so that we can have a better world with everybody in it. There's a few ways you can be a part of it. One of it is, if this message is for you, amazing. Score in the comment section, book a call, get on with Dominique, see how we can support you. The second one is, chances are you have a first-degree connection to someone whose life depends on this work. So I want you to honor the moment, pause and go, in whose hands would this be life-altering? Who is successful in the books on the outside, but you know that internally they may not, or you know that on one area of their life, they are bleeding. I would love for you to share the information with them. The third thing you can do is, if you pull up the app for wherever you're watching this from, you should be allowed to subscribe or follow or share or comment or review. I don't know what you can do with the platform you have. Do all of those things, because if you do those things, it's like you have a whistle and you're blowing it and you're letting people know that there is an assembly to be heard. And only you can help me spread the message. So I sincerely hope and trust that you will. Sending you all my love and light. I will talk to you next time.